meeting is being recorded.
All right, everyone, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome to Empire State Development's Division of Minority and Women's Business Development, MWBE webinar series. Today's webinar topic is Did You Know? New York State COVID-19 Business Resources and More. My name is Caitlin Covert, Business Development Associate at Empire State Development. I have some wonderful guests from Business Development here with us today. Luke Sevier, Vice President of Business Development, Michelle Olivero, Program Manager, and Ryan Smith, Director of Business Development. However, before I go over today's agenda, let's take care of housekeeping issues. We have already muted your phones, so participants do not hear a lot of background noise during the presentation. This webinar is being recorded, and the PowerPoint presentation as well as the recording will be emailed to all registrants. We encourage you to ask questions regarding topics discussed on the webinar through the Q&A boxes. We will also be sending out a Q&A guidance document after the presentation addressing any questions. And lastly, there will be a short survey that will pop up on your screen. This will take 5 minutes or less to fill out. We would very much appreciate your feedback. All right, just going to go over the agenda for today. Opening remarks are going to be done by Luke Sevier, the Vice President of Business Development. We're going to be going over some Empire State Development resources, statewide resources, federal resources, and regional and local resources. Then we're going to go over some parting tips and then address any questions and answers. So I'm going to pass it over to Luke.
Thank you, Caitlin. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Luke Sevier, and I'm the Vice President of Business Development with the New York State Division of MWBE Development at Empire State. We are so pleased that you have joined us for today's New York State COVID-19 Business Resources and More webinar. And I hope that everyone remains safe, well, and uses discernment during these critical times. I want to thank my team, Ryan Smith, Michelle Olivero, Caitlin Covert, and Lourdes Martinez, who have curated these resources for you, and they will discuss resource assistance, partner programs, and more with you today. We understand that the COVID-19 pandemic has had various challenging impacts on small businesses and small business communities throughout New York State and across the nation. We here in the division and the business development unit are committed to ensuring that our MWBE firms still have the information, the training, and the resources to thrive and succeed. We'll also be hosting additional webinars throughout the coming weeks. Notably, tomorrow we will be having our partner from Small Business Administration be able to present the SBA resources that exist for COVID-19 affected businesses. Please make sure you check out our website for the upcoming webinars schedule, as well as updated information as to how your business can continue to receive support or how you may be able to help New York State. As always, our division is here to serve New York State MWBEs, and together we will weather this storm and continue to produce the most successful MWBE program in the country. I welcome our webinar presenter, Ryan Smith, at this time, Director of Business Development, to continue with the presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Luke. Caitlin, you already went over the agenda, but I think Michelle's actually going to kick it off with our to highlight some of the Empire State Development areas, as well as some of the statewide resources, and then I'll follow it up with some federal resources, as well as the regional different resources we've identified in the various regions throughout New York. So without further ado, Michelle, it's all yours.
Thank you both so much, and good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today. Empire State Development is New York State's chief economic development agency, and our Division of Minority and Women's Business Development is one of the divisions within Empire State Development. Our organization has been working around the clock and incredibly hard to ensure that businesses have up-to-date and most recent information regarding COVID-19. And so some of the information that I'm going to speak to you about today is regarding Executive Order 202.6, just to give some more information on that. And that has to do with essential businesses and what that means. A little context regarding that, Executive Order 202.6 really comes about in connection to Executive Order 202.8. So that was basically the directive issued by our governor, Governor Cuomo, that required businesses in New York State to reduce the number of employees working at individual locations in order to combat the COVID-19 outbreak. So this was effective March 22 of 2020 at 8 p.m., where employers are required to reduce the number of employees by each location by 100%. So this applies to all for-profit and not-for-profit employers in New York State unless such business is deemed an essential business or entity providing essential services. So what exactly does an essential business or entity mean? So that means any for-profit or nonprofit that are not subject to the in-person restriction that I just mentioned. And there is a very thorough list. You'll see here on this slide, at the bottom of the slide is our Empire State Development URL. That's esd.ny.gov, but just to make sure that we are on the same page, I'm going to touch on some of these essential services and essential business categories. So for example, essential healthcare operations, research and laboratory services, hospitals, senior and elder care, or essential infrastructure, so public and private utilities, including but not limited to power generation, fuel supply and transmission, public water and wastewater, telecommunications, airports and airlines, essential manufacturing, so food processing, medical equipment and instruments, pharmaceuticals, telecommunications, essential retail, including grocery stores, pharmacies, gas stations, restaurants and bars, but of course only pertinent to takeout and delivery. Essential services, including trash and recycling, laundromats, mail and shipping services, child care centers. So we're also considering news media, financial institutions, banks and payroll related, or basic necessities like homeless shelters and congregate care facilities, and also in relation to construction. So for example, all non-essential construction must shut down except for emergency construction. So emergency construction means a project necessary to protect the health and safety of the occupants, or if it's a construction project that would be deemed unsafe if it were to be allowed, if it were to remain undone. So if you want to get a clear understanding of whether your business is considered an essential business or entity, you can certainly log on to our website and view the thorough list that's accessible to you. So the other point here on this slide is if you are a business and you want to help New York State get COVID-19 supplies or PPE, personal protective equipment, there's a lot of really great information in relation to that. So specifically, businesses that can sell, produce, or donate critical medical supplies or personal protective equipment. So when you go to our website, there's going to be three great options there. The first option you're going to see, if in relation to this specific category, is ready to supply. So for example, you are a company that is able to immediately sell or produce COVID-19 related medical equipment and supplies. So for example, ventilators, N95 masks, surgical masks, things of that nature, and we do have a more thorough list on our website. If you can immediately sell or produce these medical equipment or supplies, you would click on that option, ready to supply, and it will lead you to a procurement form, and that's one product per form. The next option here is your business can and will repurpose reproduction or production. So that means that a company would need to retool in order to produce approved COVID-19 related medical equipment and supplies. And so in this particular case, we're going to ensure that you have the pertinent certifications. When you go to our website, if you have any inquiries about what PPE means, what type of certifications we're looking for, we do an excellent job of really breaking that down. And last but not least, for those that may want to volunteer or donate, so for example, any goods, services, or space. So this is a great example for healthcare professionals that may be listening in here and you want to know, how can I donate my services to help out with New York State? There is a survey that you can click on when it comes to volunteer or donate, and that'll lead you directly to the New York State Department of Health. There's going to be a survey, you fill out that information, and they will get back to you. And last but not least on this PowerPoint here is we're going to talk more about this today and also more thoroughly tomorrow, but the U.S. Small Business Administration has amazing resources for businesses impacted by COVID-19. So please do stay tuned for that. Next slide, please. Okay, great. So the New York State Department of Health is crucial, as you all know, to number one, understanding what is COVID-19, what are the symptoms, where can I get tested, what is the most updated information that I can get for New York State, the different regions within the state. What's helpful is this website here and also that phone number, which has a variety of languages which you can tap into. It also speaks more about New York State on pause. If any of you were tuned into the governor's briefing earlier this morning, he did state that schools and non-essential businesses will stay closed until April 29th, so extended from April 15th. So there's more information on the Department of Health website and also, of course, on our website. Other helpful resources that we wanted to make sure we pointed out here in partnership, so these are other state agencies that we work very closely with, is the New York State Department of Labor. So for example, if you wanted to apply for unemployment benefits, they also have something called the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. So for example, if you wanted to learn more about that, you know, who is eligible, how you can apply, that is the New York State Department of Labor. We also have our other partner, the New York State Department of Financial Services, and they have information for small businesses as well impacted by COVID-19, and particularly information regarding understanding business interruption insurance, so how that coverage works and more. Again, our website is on the bottom of the screen, and I do want to note that if you have any particular questions regarding COVID-19 related to your business, there is an actual form too where you can submit your inquiry to us. So that's just a good FYI. Next slide, please. And this is a great visual. So, you know, as I mentioned on our website, there are those 3 great sections there where you can click on if you can provide medical equipment or supplies or services. But this is also a great visual here. So one thing that we really want to make sure that you walk away with on this slide is that New York State will finance needed transition to make these slides available to New York State. So for companies that can make those masks and gowns and face shields, et cetera, for our healthcare workers, you can email COVID-19 supplies at esd.ny.gov or call that number. I also want to note that the governor does offer briefings 7 days a week, usually within the time frame of 11 a.m. to 1 p.m.-ish. You're welcome to tune in, of course, at any time. It's, you can locate that briefing on that website there, www.ny.gov, or on your local news channel. Next slide, please. And this is just going back to our partner, the New York State Department of Health, just showing you a great visual, and of course that URL at the bottom of the screen to access this website. Again, wanting to learn more about COVID-19 testing, what New York State on pause means, more information regarding there. They also have their hotline on the screen. You can certainly contact them. Next slide, please. And you know, we're here today, and I'm very pleased to see the number of folks that are currently logged into this webinar. We understand that the COVID-19 pandemic, you know, we're here to offer resources and business resources at that, but we cannot neglect to talk about emotional and mental health and well-being and ensuring that you take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. And so we wanted to highlight one of our partners, the New York State Office of Mental Health. As you may have heard, there are thousands of mental health professionals that have volunteered their time, and you can certainly call that phone number to speak with someone for free and get the emotional support and help that you need. And the website is also on the bottom of the slide as well. Next slide, please. And the governor today during his briefing did mention Headspace, which I am very excited to tap into myself, and I will certainly explore. But starting today, as you can see, New Yorkers can get free meditation and mindfulness resources. And so that's the URL there, and we hope that you can tap into that as well. Next slide, please. So statewide resources, a little bit about this. You know, the great work that we do here in the Division of Minority and Women's Business Development for all of you, our MWBEs and small businesses, we certainly would not be able to do this without our great statewide partners. And please know that we do work with a variety of partners, which you will see in the coming slides. But just kind of honing in on these three for now here. These small business development centers, or SBDCs, entrepreneurship assistance centers, or EACs, and procurement technical assistance centers, or PTACs. So what do they do? So in relation to providing resources and tools specific to COVID-19 assistance, SBDCs and EACs are excellent to reach out to if someone on the line is thinking about starting a business, or you just started your business and you want to learn, how do I grow my business? You know, how do I market my business on a general note? You know, what are those kind of finance, access to capital resources, even outside of COVID-19, that I can tap into as a small business or an MWBE? They can also help with state certification, so New York State MWBE certification, for example, or how to do business with the state of New York. And that's also the same, of course, for PTACs, for procurement technical assistance centers. And PTACs are amazing too, because if you want to learn how to do business with New York State or on a local or federal level, they are an excellent resource as well. If you want to learn how to find a location to you or closest to you, you just click on either of those links and they can help you out. And services are for free or low cost. Next slide, please. And now I introduce to you all my colleague, Ryan Keith.
Thanks, Michelle. So we're going to talk a little bit about the federal resources. Hopefully everyone is practicing, you know, following the guidelines provided by the CDC as well as Department of Health. But the CDC's website really does have a lot of great information out there if you want to stay up to date with the various happenings, not only related to the COVID, but you know, throughout the year. The CDC, they do have a lot of great information out there. So definitely recommend, in particular, especially for what's going on now, definitely make sure you are following those guidelines and check out the CDC's website. The Small Business Administration, I think a lot of folks have heard about the various initiatives that are coming out of Washington, D.C. over the past, you know, week or longer. For, you know, to provide support for small businesses. The two of those I'm going to, you know, briefly talk about today. One is the COVID-19 injury or economic injury disaster loan, EIDL for short, and then the other is the Paycheck Protection Program. That's PPP for short. Government loves to use acronyms, so that's always nice and handy. But we will be having a webinar tomorrow, as Luke had mentioned in his opening remarks, with the Small Business Administration. We're going to talk about not only these programs, we'll probably dive into the EIDL a little bit deeper, as well as some other resources that the SBA has, not only related to the COVID, but throughout the year that any small business, you know, might be able to tap into. So the EIDL this is very important. I think this is a great, several great initiatives popped up over the last week or so. And this particular one's great because they are advancing up to $10,000 when you apply for the EIDL loan. This is essentially a grant, so this does not have to be paid back. So if you are not familiar with that, or perhaps if you even applied prior to, I believe, like March 30th, I know that there's a lot of changes that are occurring. It seems like on a daily basis, there's some tweaks and things that are occurring. So if perhaps you applied prior to last weekend for the EIDL, and if you were not asked to, or asked if you were interested in that $10,000 advance, they're recommending that you go back to the SBA's website and use this link that we have on this slide to essentially apply. I believe there's an area where you can insert your loan information, because right from that main portal is where you're going to select that you're interested in receiving this $10,000 advance. Again, this is something that is not even required to be paid back, so it's essentially a grant. So I would definitely look into that. And then there's also the Paycheck Protection Program, which the idea behind this particular program is really to encourage businesses to maintain their payroll. With these uncertain times, the idea is to keep your employees engaged with your business. In doing so, they're offering a very low interest rate of 1% for a 2-year term. What's nice is this particular loan can be deferred for 6 months and even longer, depending on your lender, but I believe they can defer for up to a year. So any business, any small business of less than 500 employees may qualify for up to $10 million. And as of this morning, it's interesting, this just started last Friday. I went live on Friday. So as of this morning, according to CNBC, they had over 2,400 lenders that are participating in this program. And that's only going to grow because all federally insured financial institutions are eligible to participate in this program. So the reason I mention that is because if your bank's not already an SBA 7A lender, they can participate in this program. So we highly encourage you to, touch base with your local lender, whoever you bank with on a normal basis, and see if they're going to be participating, or to make sure that they have plans to participate. So if you go to the, if you're not sure, whether your lender participates, you can look up on the SBA's website. If you go to sba.gov and then funding programs, under the coronavirus relief options, you select Paycheck Protection Plan, and then you can look up, they have a great lender search. You can look to see if your lender is in the search. You can find the lender. You can just type in your zip code and it'll tell you what lenders in your area are participating. And again, if you don't see your lender in here, I would still reach out to them and see if they have plans to participate. The benefit of that is you already have a relationship with your lender. So definitely reach out to your bank, your banker, and see if this is something they're going to be participating in. What's nice is also on the SBA's website, you can download a sample of the application. So that's going to tell you what your lender most likely will be asking of you. So we recommend that you take a look at that, download it from the site. This will give you an idea of what your lender is going to be asking for. So, you're obviously going to have to require, provide some payroll information and things like that. So, hopefully you're working with your accountant or your payroll specialist as well. So, again, we're going to have the SBA on tomorrow afternoon. We hope you can join us then. Again, she'll probably dig into a little more on the EIDL, as well as some of the other resources that they're going to have available or that they do have available. But reach out to your local lender and find out a little bit more about that Paycheck Protection Plan. These I think are very good programs to help small businesses sort of, survive and bridge the gap between now and hopefully we get back to some kind of normal, some kind of normalness here in the near future. So moving on to the next slide. I also recommend, most of you have probably heard, the IRS has also extended the tax filing deadline to July 15th. I would also stay in touch with the IRS. We are in unprecedented times. I would not be surprised if additional information, perhaps other tax relief or other initiatives from the IRS, I would not be surprised if we learn about new initiatives over time. So periodically check the IRS's website. As most of the other entities, they do have their own coronavirus section there, and the links provided right there. But also another great resource, another great website is just the USA.gov. This is the general, I kind of view it as a general federal government website. If you go to their government response to coronavirus, there's a lot of really good information in here. You can visit. There's links to FEMA. You could also see what the federal government's doing, whether it's the Administration for Children and Families or whether it's the Community Living, Centers for Disease Control I mentioned already, product safety. I mean, there's a really long list of various agencies, federal agencies, that are providing information and support through the various agencies. So definitely recommend checking that out. But also in that section, there's also a section for scams and fraud. With everything that's going on, this is a ripe time for fraudsters to try to take advantage of individuals as well as small businesses. So just be aware, whether it's phishing scams via email, or we have our the stimulus checks are going to be going out in the next few weeks. Just be careful. There are going to be phone callers and scammers trying to get your personal information. So there's great information out there on the government, on the USA.gov website regarding the various frauds and scams that are out there. It's easy for us to let our guard down in these times. So just be aware there are a lot of scams going on around out there. So moving on to the next slide, we're going to hit up. We're going to talk a little bit about the different regions throughout New York State, and we're looking at it from our Empire State Development perspective. So this is kind of a map of of the different various regional offices with Long Island, New York City, Mid-Hudson, Southern Tier. And then the information, the lettering's not great, but this is taken right from our website. If you go to esd.ny.gov, and then along the top, you'll see why New York State, doing business, industries, and then regions. If you click on the regions, that'll take you right to the various regions, and then you can click on the region that you reside and find out more information through that. So that's just a visual of the various regions throughout New York State. So moving on to the next slide. So we're going to start kind of downstate and work our way up. So what we did here is, this is not an exhaustive list of different resources, but we thought it'd be important to sort of, dig in, do a little research to see what resources the various regions have. So if we don't mention your organization, or if you don't mention your county, please don't take offense to that. We're just limited with time and space on our presentation. Feel free to reach out to us if you would like us to share information about your resources or your organizations or whatever it may be, because there's literally thousands of great organizations and resources throughout the state. What we hoped by doing this is identifying some of the resources in each region and get you to think more from a local perspective as well. Empire State Development's website has a lot of great information from the state perspective, I would say. So we really want you to really think about what else is available to you right there in your backyard. So starting in Long Island, we have the Long Island Center for Business and Professional Women. That's the licenter.org. That's just one of the many great organizations that are, similar organizations throughout New York State. There's also, you can also look at each of whatever county you reside in. For example, what we've found is most of the counties, if not all of the counties, have their own coronavirus COVID-19 resources, a lot of web links, but more importantly, the guidance that you will see from the Department of Health page is that you're really going to want to know where your COVID response and where you have to go for your county health departments, their different services, because that's where you're going to, whether it's you need to get tested or whether you need medical assistance, it's important that you know where to go and who to turn to and what phone numbers you need and websites that you need. So make sure you are checking out your local county that you reside in. Again, not only for coronavirus, but obviously the various information for what's going on in your particular region. So moving on to the next page, we're going to talk about the New York City Small Business Continuity Fund. This is great. You can get a loan up to $75,000 at 0% interest. You really cannot get better than that. Well, I guess technically there's negative interest rates right now, but from a practical perspective, that is a great interest rate. So For businesses who have sales have decreased from 25% or more due to the coronavirus, again, this is going to be for smaller businesses. They define smaller businesses as 100 or fewer employees. But what's nice is it could be used for employee retention, working capital, inventory, or other type of investments. So that's a great resource for the New York City Small Business Continuity Fund. Another great resource for the New York City area is brought to you by the Bach Capital Corp, and that's a business outreach center network, Capital Corp. And if you're not familiar with Bach, we definitely encourage you. Hopefully, we identify or maybe introduce you to a couple of new organizations. But Bach Capital Corp was founded back in 2001. It's affiliated with the Business Outreach Center network. It's a nonprofit organization, but the Capital Corp is a community development financial institution. You may have heard of the term CDFI. They're also an SBA lender, micro lender, as well as a certified community development entity. So they provide a lot of great resources, but some of their capital programs are very, I think, you should explore them. Let's put it that way. They have a variety of different resources. One is you can finance some production costs from as low as $500 to $50,000 loans. These are order-based loans, again, to sort of help you increase or I'd say cover your production costs. There's also other short-term loans. There's SBA micro loans. There's the green business loans, $1,000 to $50,000 for environmental businesses and energy efficient businesses. There's also a capital access revolving loan guarantee. So point being is they offer a variety of different resources. So to obtain assistance at Bach Capital Corp, you can contact one of the Bach affiliates, and there's several affiliates in Manhattan, as well as Newark, Queens, Staten Island, and as I mentioned, a couple of other Manhattan locations. So moving along, we're going to talk about the next area will be the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, as well as the Queens Economic Development Corp. Again, if you visit these websites, they're going to have a lot of the information, a lot of the links that we talk about with the various resources. So it's kind of your local, kind of another local resource, another website. We encourage you to really, as a small business owner, to get engaged. Be actively engaged with what's going on with not only on the economic development front, but through your chambers of commerces. Not only can it increase your businesses through networking, but also there are literally thousands and thousands of different financial resources that might be available that are maybe specific or tailored specific through a variety of different organizations. So if you haven't already, definitely try to get engaged. Obviously, we can't do it in person right now, but hopefully things open up. We definitely recommend that you do reach out to your local chambers of commerce. And we're going to talk about a couple of other chambers of commerce. There's some other civic-minded organizations throughout the state as well. Anything that can help you network and gain experience and information to help your business, we definitely always recommend that. So we're going to move along here. So as we move up the Hudson River here, we're going to go to Mid-Hudson region. And again, similar to Bach, we're partnered with the Women's Enterprise Development Center, commonly known as WEDC. WEDC empowers entrepreneurs to build successful businesses by providing a really high quality training, advisory services, and access to capital for a variety of businesses. They were actually one of our cohorts for our Business Growth Accelerator program a few years ago. And they just provide excellent resources. And again, not just around the COVID pandemic, but throughout the year, they really partner with some great, truly experts in the field. And so if you're not familiar and you're in the Mid-Hudson region, definitely we recommend you reaching out, learning a little bit more about what WEDC can do for you. But as it relates to the specific COVID loan programs, WEDC has a really good website. They offer some other programs, such as the Verizon Small Business Recovery Fund, which is a $2.5 million investment from Verizon, offering grants to small businesses. There's also the Hebrew Free Loan Society. They have business loans and access to capital programs. But also, we found on the WEDC website was, in addition to those resources, the $100 million commitment to small businesses that Facebook is giving away. So really, as you explore some of these websites, I think hopefully you're going to identify areas and different or new funding options, and hopefully grants and some things that you can tap into. As I mentioned, this list that we have on our slides obviously is not going to be a very exhaustive list, but I think as you sort of do your own sort of legwork and visit these local websites, a lot of them have really great resources. And as I mentioned earlier, we also encourage you, again, to really stay informed by visiting your local county, whether it's Ulster, Dutchess, Sullivan, Orange, Putnam, Rockland, Westchester, or again, if you're in other regions, whatever county you reside in, make sure you're checking out what updates they might have for you as well. So moving on to the next slide. We're moving on up the Hudson River to the Capital District. Again, each of these counties had very good websites we found. So definitely check out those that information out there. Again, most of them provide just a great number of web links to look at. But another one is a local organization, Center for Economic Growth, CEG. I thought they had a really good list of COVID-19 updates. And also there's also information regarding through the Capital Region Chamber of Commerce regarding a variety of resources, for example, how to do business in the wake of social distancing. These are some tips and some very practical tips around mental health and the importance of connecting with colleagues and coworkers and staff. Again, working remotely can be a little more challenging. It can cause some anxiety, but really, I think if you sort of, tap into each of these, the more information we have, typically we feel a little bit better about our situation. That's no different right now. In fact, it's more important now, to stay informed and stay connected as much as you can. It's, I'm a big believer in networking, as most of you know from meeting me and attending some of our events. But, we definitely encourage you to definitely try to stay engaged. And one way to do that is through the various regional chambers of commerce or any other organizations, economic development organizations, to stay in the loop, so to speak. So we're going to keep moving here to the next slide. So again, we're going to keep moving north. And so we highlighted a couple of the North Country websites. What I found interesting, the North Country Alliance is giving loans up to $25,000, 5% interest. Available to business is in those particular counties: Jefferson, Lewis, St. Lawrence, Clinton, Essex, Franklin, and Hamilton. What's nice is these links here will take you directly to the fact sheet if you happen to reside in one of those counties. There's also more information about the application right from that link on the screen. But also, again, chambers of commerce, kind of like a broken record, but it's very important that you stay in touch or that you engage with your local chambers of commerce, and North Country Chambers, another great organization for you to do that. Other counties have it as well. For example, St. Lawrence, they have a great chamber of commerce and visitor center up there. So reach out, get connected, stay informed is essentially the point. Clinton County had a very good website with various web links and information out there. You can check that out, as well as the Adirondack North Country Association, more commonly known as ANCA. So you can go to adirondack.org for that. And we're going to keep it moving here. So it's the same deal, Mohawk Valley, Oneida County. What you're going to find, I think, whether your county has specific financial resources, if they don't, we've noticed that a lot of the counties are sort of doing surveys. They're surveying businesses to really get an understanding of how they are impacted, because how it's impacted someone in Herkimer County might not be the same as someone in Nassau County. There are different types of businesses, different types of resources and things like that. So we found Oneida County is conducting a survey, as well as some of the other counties, You can click to review that survey, view that survey online if you reside in Oneida County, but also Mohawk Valley Edge COVID-19 resources. If you're not familiar, Mohawk Valley Edge is a great economic development organization. If you're not familiar, there is a lot of great economic development going on in the Mohawk Valley and Utica and the surrounding areas. So check out Mohawk Valley Edge. They had a lot of great information, as did the Greater Utica Chamber of Commerce. Again, common theme: stay in touch, stay connected, and stay informed. So moving along, we're going to move over to the Central New York. Southern Tier. We dip down to the Southern Tier, and then we'll come back up. So the Southern Tier, again, some more great resources. You know, if you're familiar or if you're not familiar with the different regions, we always recommend that you're staying in the loop as far as what economic development activities are going on in your area. Ultimately, hopefully, this is where you know, positive economic development is good for everybody, but hopefully your business can grow your business through some of that economic development. So the Broome County Industrial Development Agency, IDA, they have an emergency loan fund for $1 million. You can check out information regarding that. Most of these funds you're going to find don't have any fees. They have deferment options and things like that. So check out the IDA, your local IDA, your local county information. There's also the Local Development Corp, Binghamton, located in Binghamton. You can see the website there. They have other loans as well. No interest, again. A pool of $350,000 is being made available. And then what you'll find is the reason you want to periodically check these these websites and your local resources, because if they don't have something now, or perhaps it's a pool of money, that pool of money may grow, it may be expanded, some of the terms may change. So remember to periodically check for any new information. So moving along from the Southern Tier, we're going to move on back up to the Central New York, which I am based in Syracuse. For those of you that haven't met me yet, there's a lot going on here in the Central New York, just like some of the other regions throughout New York. A lot of great economic development happening. So we highlighted a few things, a few different websites that we think you should be viewing and tapping into. And if you're not already familiar with some of these organizations, we definitely recommend you get connected with these organizations. The first one being the Syracuse Economic Development Corp. Again, zero interest for 180-day emergency loan up to $25,000. This is available for businesses in Syracuse. You can find out more information right from their site. There's also the Onondaga County Office of Economic Development through various loans that you can find out more information on those bridge loans. Again, as last look, they had approximately $500,000 available to lend. And if you're not familiar, if you're in the Syracuse area in the Central New York region, hopefully you are familiar with Center State CEO. I found their website to be very well structured and informative. Right from their main page, you can see right up front they have COVID-19 business resources. They have a lot of really good information in here. So if you're not familiar, Center State CEO is really integral to the economic development for Central New York. They have a lot of great advisors that can help small businesses, and they also are big in, as I mentioned, not only economic development, but making a more inclusive economic development for minority and women businesses. One of those organizations that I want to highlight as well, and again, there are other organizations out here. One of them is Upstate Minority Economic Alliance, commonly known as UMEA. They have a lot of great web links on their website as well. I thought it was very, just a vast list of COVID-19 resources. That they have Center State CEOs, they have Brookings Institute, they have the 2020 Census, Department of Labor, a lot of great, really a lot of the ones that I've mentioned, Verizon, LISC, Small Business Recovery Fund, which I'll talk about in the Western New York slide. So if you're not familiar with Upstate Minority Economic Alliance, definitely reach out to see how they are assisting. minority businesses, minority and women businesses in Central New York. They're a great organization, and we always enjoy partnering with them, whether it's on events or in other ways. So again, get connected, stay informed, reach out, join the new organization. Can't reiterate that enough. So keeping it moving here, we're kind of running a little bit low on time, so I'm going to kind of cruise through the next couple. The Finger Lakes Monroe County Emergency Small Business Support Program, they have an emergency fund, $500,000. The next one I thought was interesting because in this day and age, we also have to think creatively. And one way of doing that are maybe looking at non-traditional resources. So Kiva Rochester crowdfunded loans. So, you know, crowdfunding is obviously a growing area. That might be a way that you could finance some of your, you know, your hardships for this. So, you know, they have loans from $1,000 to $15,000, again, at 0% interest. So when you're thinking about, you know, funding resources, don't always think traditional. There are non-traditional resources. I thought that was a great example of a non-traditional resource. And then also the City of Rochester has great information on their website. You can go there, look up their business resources. They have emergency retention grants and other resources that you can tap into. And they also have loan deferral programs along with the Rochester Economic Development Corp. So if you want to learn more about that and you're located in Rochester, please check out those websites. So moving on out to Western New York. Again, get connected with your local IDA, the Industrial Development Agency. We have Erie counties listed right here. We have different, as I mentioned, the Local Initiative Support Corporation. If you're not familiar with that, that's LISC, as well as Pursuit Lending is one of our access to capital partners, formerly known as Excelsior Growth Fund. They have great resources, and their website I thought was very well structured, as well as Erie County and Niagara County. Again, make sure you're always checking your local counties for that important information as well. And moving on, we're going to leave you with a few parting tips.
Yes, absolutely. So thank you very much, Ryan. And I think, you know, the point here that we're trying to make is that by no means are these exhaustive lists or resources. You know, we have some of our partners, and of course, MWBE is on the line. If there is a great resource that you want to be sure that we are aware about, please do email us or call us and let us know, and we'll make sure to share that information. But first and foremost, parting tip and kind of key takeaway is to continue to check these key websites that we've listed. Of course, our Empire State Development, as I said, has been amazing at working around the clock and ensuring that you guys have the most up-to-date and accessible information related to COVID-19, as well as other resources in terms of doing business with the state of New York. We also wanted to be able to point out one of our partner divisions, if you will, the Division of Small Business. So we in the Division of Minority and Women's Business Development work very closely with them as well. And they are particularly amazing in many ways, but they also do provide great resources pertaining to access to capital, whether it's COVID-19, you know, they'll share more resources about the SBA or even outside of that. So tapping into alternative lenders, for example, or wanting to know what's available to me as a certified MWBE with New York State. They are very helpful in terms of that. And to note that they help small businesses. So of course that includes MWBEs, but also small businesses in general. And as Ryan said, you know, continue to check out the U.S. Small Business Administration website, as well as your local websites, chambers of commerce, economic development agencies. The second bullet point is, of course, you know, our resources are here, and we are thankful for those that have been able to join us today. SBDCs, Entrepreneurship Assistance Centers, EACs, PTACs, Chambers of Commerce, Industrial Development Agencies, you know, they're all here to provide resources COVID-19 related specific or even outside of that. And now, you know, that you've learned all of the great resources across New York State, you know, feel free, if you can, to apply to those loans and grants. And in these particular cases, you know, reach out to those experts that you know. So those bankers, those attorneys, those accountants, they're here to help navigate all of these great resources with you. Next slide, please. And, you know, network with others. So I know that obviously we all have to social distance, and that's really important, but that's also a way to think about how we are working with each other in different ways. So virtually, for example, how we can see each other through, you know, various programs like Zoom and other things that people are using. This is also, you know, a great way to kind of work on your business in terms of your capability statement or how you want to market yourself and kind of create that strategic plan for yourself, if you will, in terms of doing business with the state of New York. You know, Luke also mentioned earlier that we are going to be having various webinars and things of that nature come up as well. So our division, in addition to our partners, are continuing to provide resources to you all as well. If you have any questions for us, the business development team, that's our email and phone number. We are available 9 to 5, Monday through Friday. Tomorrow's webinar will be hosted with the SBA. So Tuesday, April 7th at 2 p.m. We will also have our Executive Director and Executive Vice President Valerie White do opening remarks tomorrow. So please do plug into that webinar. And last but not least, it's always important to remember that we are in this together. I like, you know, how Governor Cuomo is always reminding us that we are New York tough. And so that includes being loving and compassionate amongst other things as an individual, but certainly pertains to the business community and MWBEs. Next slide, please. Great. And now we will open it up for questions and answers.
All right, thank you, Michelle. We have quite a few questions, so we might not have enough time to get through all of them, but we will be providing a Q&A guidance document after the presentation with any questions that were asked. So first question, I'm certified as a MWBE. We are suppliers of locks, flooring, blinds, and miscellaneous wiping cloths. Our business has been interrupted. Are there grants available to us?
So I would say I would definitely start, as I mentioned, the EIDL, that's $10,000. That's essentially a grant. I really think everybody that's eligible, I would, again, anytime you can get something that you can get money that does not have to be paid back, to me, that's kind of a no-brainer. So definitely check out the SBA website. And then, and again, that's part of, the reason why we kind of want you to think, okay, where should I be looking? Whether it's your county, make sure you're, basically leaving no stone unturned. Making sure you're checking with your local counties, your city websites. As I mentioned, throughout the presentation, a lot of these, counties and organizations that we did highlight, they had a nice list of different resources available. So that's kind of where I would start. I'm not sure if they had anything, if that quite answered, but Michelle, did you want to add to that?
No, I think that was great. Thank you.
Have you identified, oh, sorry.
I was just going to add, and again, we can always connect offline as well if you have something more specific about your business. We're always available, as Michelle had mentioned. So, feel free to, if that didn't quite cover it, feel free to reach out to us.
All right. Have you identified the specific purchasing needs outside of N95 and surgical masks that firms can provide?
On our website here, so we do have a specific area. So when you go to esd.ny.gov, it does break down medical supplies and personal protective equipment. If you see something that you wish to try and sell to the state of New York in relation to COVID-19 that's not on this particular list, Caitlin, if you could bring up slide number 6, that might be helpful in terms of the email address there. And that is COVID-19 supplies at esd.ny.gov. You can also call that phone number as well. But there are certainly, going back to the ESD website as well, various goods and services that we're looking for too. that may not be listed here, and particularly if you would like to donate them or so, you can just go to the ESD website for more information. Luke or Ryan, would you like to add anything to that?
No, I would just add that when you go to the ESD website, there's a form that you can actually submit. You know, I believe there's 3 different options. The bottom option is to donate or provide services. It's kind of, don't let that keep you, even if you're interested in offering your services for sale. If you select that option and you go to the next screen, essentially that form is directing the products and services that people are offering to the appropriate areas. So really the main, you know, we're really taking a centralized approach to this so that it's very transparent and very readily available out there on our Empire State Development's website. So go ahead and submit your information via that form. And as Michelle mentioned, you could also contact us at the business development team, but also through that COVID-19 related resources web link that you see on top of the screen there.
Okay. Let me just pull up the questions. So on March 31st, I filled out the revised EIDL with help from an SBDC advisor. On April 4th, I received an email saying that any EIDL submitted prior to April 3rd has to be resubmitted. Is this true, and when will I hear?
Yes, and I think that's what I was referring to because what happened was, I think on March 31st, I believe it was, they actually changed the portal. As I mentioned, you probably want to do that anyway because in the previous form, I don't believe that $10,000 advance was part of that process. So I would go to that SBA web link that's on that particular slide. If you just go to the website, and as I mentioned, I believe, again, the SBA rep tomorrow could confirm this, but so the point of that is they changed the portal for that EIDL. So when you go to the portal now, that's one of the first things you're going to see is that you're interested in that $10,000 advance. So if you applied prior to that, you definitely want to go back in there and select that you're interested in that $10,000. But again, we will have as a reminder, we will have the SBA representative tomorrow that might be able to provide a little more information on that.
Can you apply for the EIDL and PPP or just one of the two?
That's a great question. You can apply, assuming you're eligible, you can apply for both. So it's a great way, for example, if you have, let's say, if you have some working capital needs, you want to pay, you know, your bills, your mortgages, your lease, or whatever it may be, but you also want to pay your payroll. Well, both of those can be used for all those expenses, but because the Paycheck Protection Program is specifically, I'd say more specifically for the payroll, you might decide that it's better for you to pay your working capital through, you know, maybe the EIDL through that $10,000 grant, or and then pay your payroll through the other one. That's something you would have to kind of determine either with your banker or maybe with your accountant. But the answer is yes, you can provided you're eligible, you can apply to both.
Right, so that looks like all the questions that we do have time for. We are going to be sending out a guidance document after the presentation. But I just want to thank you all for joining us for the MWBE Special Topics webinar today. I have some reminders. The PowerPoint presentation as well as the recording will be emailed to everyone. And then, as I said before, we will be sending out a Q&A guidance document. And then our next webinar will be tomorrow, April 7th, and called Small Business Resources with the US SBA. In my email with the PowerPoint and the recording will be a sign-up link to this email or to this webinar tomorrow. Please fill out the short webinar survey and let us know how we did. And then everybody have a nice rest of your day.
Thank you.